Hello, this is Justin with JDC Products, and today we're going to be talking about a new development that I call the Little Water Torch. And essentially, it's just a compact HHO or hydroxy system that was developed to be used for mainly is being marketed as a micro torch, which can be used for soldering, brazing, cutting, fusing, melting. Um, all sorts of different types of metals, glass, even stones. And basically, it can be used by craftsmen, home hobbyists, jewelers, um, experimenters, plumbers. It works well for soldering copper pipe as well. Um, and I put this system together mainly because as I started doing a lot of research, I started doing research into the micro torch and all-in-one systems that were already put together that you could buy, that you could purchase. For the most part, you can't find this technology on store shelves. You can find the parts on store shelves, and you can put the parts together yourself to make it what it is, but already fully put together, you cannot find this stuff out in the mainstream department stores. And so you have to go online to really purchase any of this stuff. And most people don't even know that this technology exists for the most part. You know, it's starting to become more popular, but a lot of people just do not know about it. And I started looking online, and a lot of the systems that were put together were built overseas in China or India or somewhere of that nature, and they were really expensive. And you're talking about systems that are only able to put out 1 to 2 liters a minute most of the time, and you're talking 1,400 to, or excuse me, 1,500 to 2,500 bucks for a little water torch. They're called H2O welders, water torch, hydrogen torch. They're called several different things, but essentially all do the same thing. There's an electrolysis cell and a water reservoir feeds water into the cell. You apply a DC voltage. It splits the water up into its components of hydrogen and oxygen into a gas, and you can burn the gas. And they all do essentially the same thing, but they were really expensive. So I started to search for um, cheaper units that were available to people. And I started to see a pattern where the kits, you could purchase kits, but nothing was actually put together and had all the safety equipment needed to turn it into a torch where you could utilize a torch. Most of the electrolysis systems kits that were being sold were being marketed for miles per gallon boosting. Now you can use those kits to build a compact micro torch, but there's components, most all the systems, there were components of the whole system missing, such as the torch itself, the flashback arrestor, and sometimes even the bubbler. I've seen kits that just had the cell and the reservoir, and that was it. And so I wanted to put a kit together that could be used and be marketed first as a useful micro torch, but could also be used in the miles per gallon boosting applications. This unit can be just simply dropped into the trunk of a vehicle, dropped or put in the back of a SUV. It can be installed in a toolbox, such as I actually installed one of these units into a toolbox of my personal truck, and I really like doing that. So I wanted to put together a system that could be just simply the whole unit was all there, everything was there that you needed, and it could be dropped just simply into a compartment, trunk, toolbox, somewhere of that nature, and you wouldn't have to worry with it. Now, most of these kits, as I said, are being sold, the individual components all broken apart, and you install the whole system underneath in the engine bay of the vehicle. This particular system, you can also do that as well. If you don't want it already put together like this, can be removed from the base itself and installed in the engine bay. And so this is a multi-use system that is going to that can be used by a broad spectrum of individuals. Now, as far as the microtorch goes, this particular gas is truly amazing and fascinating to me. And one of the main reasons why I got into this technology is because it's real simple and very affordable to get into. And then when you start thinking about what you're actually doing, it gets really, really fascinating. I mean, what we're doing at this moment in time is we are splitting water up into its components, and we're creating one of the cleanest and purest gases on Earth, and we're burning that. And you are using electricity to create the gas. But that aside, think about what you're doing. You've created a flammable gas, a clean burning flammable gas, with no help from big oil, from the government, no help from anybody. You just needed a little bit of DC power. And the power doesn't have to come from the grid. The power can come from solar, can come from wind, can come from all sorts of renewable energies. And you can split this gas up, or split this water up, and create this pure gas. And so that's what I find fascinating about it, is I didn't have to drill any holes in the ground. I didn't have to store it. I didn't have to transport it. I'm doing it on demand at the flip of a switch, and instantly I have gas. And what's amazing to me is when you really start thinking about, natural gas or propane, even gasoline, diesel, when you start thinking about what it actually takes as far as energy to get it out of the ground, or get it out of wherever you're wherever you're mining it from. I mean, you got to think about the manpower it takes to actually drill into the ground, the equipment needed. All that equipment uses fuel already that you're going to need to actually gain access to the gas, or to the gasoline, or to the oil. You got to think about how much it takes to gain access to it, and then once you gain access to it, you have to pull it out of the ground, pump it out, whatever it takes. Then you have to store it into large facilities, or large tanks, and then you have to actually transport it and distribute it out. And when you start going through these different levels, you start to see that it takes a lot of initial energy before it ever gets to your gas tank. When you go to your gas tank and you pump that fuel in, that fuel went through a lot of different loops to get to where it is. And then when you start to think of how easy and how simple it is to split this water up just by using just a little bit of electricity, how simple it is to split the water up, you start to see that it's a possibility that this could be a truly viable and sustaining fuel source for the entire planet. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to go through the system itself, and we're going to talk about, and hopefully this will be as a basis to a lot of people out there that are just getting into the technology, as to what you need before you even think about lighting this gas or lighting the tube. HHO is essentially hydrogen and oxygen mixed in together, so it's very volatile. So you have to have the proper safety equipment in your system, and it has to be tested so you know it's not going to fail on you, because it's a very volatile, very explosive gas. And so we're going to go through the components, starting with the cell. Now, the cell is essentially, it is just an upgrade of the original washer dry cell I designed. And what I did was I started playing around with different shapes, bells, dome shapes, things like that, and I started to see that the output was really, really good. And when you put it in a dry cell format, the gas freely escapes out of the cell, and it escapes much easier than it did than it does in a plate cell. And so I started looking online, and I found the condiment cups, or the cup cells. And essentially, all the videos, everybody, they were getting really great output, but it wasn't a fully functional design. It was a prototype, so to speak. There were problems with it. A lot of people had problems with leaks and with continuity of the continuity of the cup itself. In other words, when it's pressed out at the factory, you may get, if you order 12 of them, all 12 of them are different sizes. So you have to find a supplier that of these cups. You have to find a supplier that has a really high quality cup, and each one is the same. So I solved all those problems, solved the leaking problem, and I was able to transfer from the original washer dry cell some of the components, such as the tension plates, the polarity clip idea. Everything on the outside of this is stainless steel. All the hardware in the whole system, even the mounting hardware, is stainless steel. And that's just so, when I build items, I want to build them to last. And so everything was built from stainless steel, because if there's one thing I've learned, is a lot of times when you have objects or devices that from years back, and they got a lot of age on them, a lot of the hardware on them, they use steel and things like that, and it's all rusted out, and you got to replace it. And I just wanted, 10 years down the road, as long as you take care of the unit, 10 years down the road, you're never going to have to replace anything for corrosion problems. And so that's why I use stainless steel throughout the whole system for all the hardware itself. And so above the cell, we've got our water reservoir. This is a 2-quart reservoir, and I usually do about 1.5 quarts. And with this particular cell, there seems to be a bit of a break-in period for the cell. The water will run a little brown on you, but I've done literally months and months and hours and hours and hours of testing on this cell, or on this cell design, and it has not been detrimental to the cell. Eventually, after a couple of flushes, the cell will run perfectly clean, and it will last a lifetime. So much so on these cells that I will provide a lifetime warranty on the cell itself. As long as you use it per the manufacturer's instructions, you do not use any electrolytes outside of what is suggested. Too much power is not being pushed into it. You're not overdriving it. As long as you're using it within specs, then you're going to be fine. You can simply ship the cell back, and I'll rebuild it, or I'll replace the plates free of cost, no charge at all. So there is a lifetime warranty on it. I feel that confident in the design itself, and so a water reservoir 2-quart. It's going to come with a lid, and what we've got here is, it's about a 1/2 inch down here, and then the output, you got a plug here, 1/4 inch plug, and then there's a 1/4 inch output right here. This is your gas output, and we got a one-way valve here to prevent siphoning, and so that's running down into the 2-stage safety bubbler. And I did a lot of research on bubblers, and I was going to do the bubbler in stainless steel, but I did not. I chose to go with high-grade plastic for the simple fact of a static discharge or a spark or something of that nature. I did not want any static buildup or anything like that, and so I decided to use a plastic bubbler just for that simple fact. You can use stainless, but you do run the risk of an explosion if there's a spark or anything of that nature, because inside the bubbler there's going to be quite a bit of gas as well. And so what we've done is it goes into the bubbler and feeds down into here, and as you can see, it's bubbling away. And we got clear tubing here just so you can see what's going on, to get a visual. And another nice feature about this is it's 2-stage. You have a filter system in here, okay? And what we've got in here is, for now, we've got cotton in this, and if you purchase one of these bubblers, it will come pre-configured with cotton in there. It's a cotton filter. And at the top of the bubbler right here, we got our another safety mechanism is a safety stopper or blowout valve. And there's several different ways of people use with bubblers to get a blowout valve or a pressure relief valve or something of that nature. I chose to go with as simple as possible and easy to use as possible is a rubber stopper. And what will happen if there is a flashback and it does get past the arrestor here, then it will blow this rubber stopper out just like that. Okay, I just showed you that flashback. Okay, and that's what will happen. I'll light this flame again, give it a minute to build up pressure. But off the bubbler itself, okay, it's feeding into the flashback arrestor, which you just saw work. And this flashback arrestor, this is sold, all of these components are also sold individually. And this flashback arrestor is something I've sold, hundreds of over the past year or two. And in my opinion, it's a really well thought out design. And most of the systems that you purchase, most of the water torch systems, a lot of them don't even come with flashback protection. And so I had to put that into the system because, again, it had to be safe for people that wanted to use this gas. Let's go ahead and light this flame back. Alright, so you got your flashback protection right here, and this flashback arrestor, again, can be bought individually. If you decide to build your own system, you can purchase this individually off the website. And it's going into a valve system right here, okay? And then you got an output going to the pin torch, okay? And we've got a valve right here, and it's for shutting the gas on and off. Now, I could have put the valve on the torch itself, but that added weight, bulkiness to it, so I wanted to mount it elsewhere. Now, this is basically a ball shut-off valve. Now, the problem is with these systems is they're on demand. It's not meant to store this gas. I do not recommend anybody storing HHO gas for the simple fact of how volatile it is. Not to say it can't be done with the right engineering and right safety equipment. I'm just saying for most people it's not necessary or even safe to pressurize this gas. And so with these systems, okay, the problem is with these torch systems is when you need to turn the gas off, if you turn the valve and you close the valve, okay, we've closed the valve, we've shut the gas supply off. Now the valve is basically shut. If you forget to open this valve again, pressure will build up in the system, okay, and that's not good. And so the ball valve is meant when you shut it off and the gas stops flowing, you get your brief flashback and it shuts off gas from the tip of the flame. What you do is you open the valve back up to release pressure out of the system. Now, if you forget to turn the valve back on and release pressure, this rubber stopper will blow out and release pressure. So you do not have to worry about your system blowing out because it was overpressurized because you forgot to open the valve back up or you forgot to turn your system off. And so for a while I looked for a spring-loaded valve, a button valve that was normally open, okay, that I could attach to the torch. I'm working on fabricating this. If anybody out there is able to fabricate a normally open button valve, spring-loaded valve, where essentially what you do is it's normally open and spring tension holds the valve open. Your flame is lit. Your flame is lit just like so, and when you press the button, it closes the valve temporarily, shuts off the gas, and then when you release it, it releases pressure again. If anybody out there has the ability to build something like that, machine something like that, let me know. Because if you can get them on the market for $5 to $10, it would be very useful in this technology. Now we're going to talk about the pin torch itself. And this is a very simple pin torch, and what's very nice about it is the tip itself. Now this is not your normal tip that most people use that are starting out. I sourced this tip out. As far as I'm aware, there's not anybody out there that are using these types of tips. But it's not your MIG welding tip or contact tip. It's a stainless steel tip. And the torch is about 3 inches wide, and it's a little pin torch. And you use it just like so, and you can buy this torch individually as well off the website. But it's really good for small scale things like soldering, brazing. You could really do a lot of things with this small torch. It's very lightweight. And I actually designed it so it would be lightweight. And again, I took the valve assembly off of it so you'd save weight on that. But as you can see with the flame itself, this bubbler creates a really clean flame. So it's really hard to see on camera with it. But I can tell you, just placing my hand, 8 inches above it, the heat is intense. And this flame can do a lot. Right now we're running about 9.5 amps or so. Running about 9.5 amps at 14.5 volts. So we're running at about 137 watts, and with that power, you can do a lot of things with the gas itself. As I said, over the course of the next few weeks, I'm going to be putting out different videos where I'm going to be demonstrating the safety devices, demonstrating the gas itself, its properties, and we're going to be setting up experiments with it. And this is another reason I designed this system. It's all-in-one system. All the safety equipment's there. And for some people, they just want to experiment with the gas. And there's several different aspects of this gas and realms that you can experiment with. It's not just about the torch itself. It's not just about miles per gallon boosting. There's things I'd like to get to the bottom of. There's people out there suggesting that the gas bubbled in water somehow charges the water, somehow creates a more energetic water, and when you drink that water or you give that water to plants or animals, it somehow creates a better conductivity in the body itself, for a better flow of nutrients and blood flow through the system, and things of that nature. It's supposed to be very beneficial to the body itself. And so I'd like to get to the bottom of that. And people out there that want to experiment in that realm, you have to have a system that has the capabilities to do it. And so this particular system has that capabilities, and you're looking at about 10 amps. I recommend running this system at about 10 amps. And you're looking at about 140, 150 watts, and you're going to be looking at about 3/4 to a liter per minute of gas, somewhere in that range. We're going to be doing some video demonstrations where I'm actually showing you output on camera. A lot of people are not going to do that. Also, a lot of people out there selling the systems, they're being very misleading about their output numbers. I would start asking questions and wanting to see output numbers and video of the output. I would definitely want to see proof if anybody out there is claiming more than a liter per minute of gas every 15 amps on 12 volt systems. If they're claiming more than that, if they're saying I'm getting 2 liters a minute at 10 amps, or even a liter per minute at 10 amps, is very hard to do. A lot of builders only wish they could get efficiency levels of that magnitude. And so really start asking questions if you're seeing anybody out there with these really small systems that are claiming really high liter per minute outputs with 10 to 20 amps at 12 volts DC. It's just using this brute force Faraday electrolysis, in my opinion, it's not possible. And if they're able to get output levels like that, then they have really stumbled across something, and they should be doing more than lying to the people out there about their output levels, if they're actually getting levels like that. And I want to throw that out there. This system, again, at at 10.5 amps, 10 amps, you're looking at about 3/4 of a liter per minute of gas, and that's plenty of gas to use for your small scale soldering, brazing, welding, cutting, things of that nature. It's plenty of gas to experiment with, and in the springtime I'm going to run an experiment where I'm going to do 5 to 10 minute intervals. You bubble the gas through distilled water, and then you have a set of distilled water that you don't bubble the gas from through, and you got 2 identical plants. You water one plant with just the plain distilled water, water one plant with the bubbled HHO gas water, and you see what happens. You don't have to, I'm not a doctor by any means. I'm not saying that this is the cure-all or some medical breakthrough, but I'm just saying that, it's very easy to test the validity of some of these claims, but you have to have a system that's capable of doing it. And so, as far as the system itself, I probably went way over on the video on the introductory of it. But essentially, again, if you have any questions about it, just email me. I just wanted to go through the system and basically introduce it all and show you that it works. It works very well. Over the course of the next few weeks, I'm going to be putting out some videos that will demonstrate it a little bit further. But again, this is just an intro video to just say that it's here. If you'd like one, visit my website, and we can set you right up with pre-ordering one. And this, at this moment, there's free shipping anywhere in the continental United States. Any international orders, please email me first for a pricing quote or a shipping quote, and we can get you set up. But again, this is the little water torch presented by Justin from JDC Products. Thanks for watching.